Back at home at 70 Clifton, the day passed painfully. It was evening. Mummy was in the kitchen cooking, and I went into my parents' bedroom and sat with Zulfi as he watched television on the bed. He was a little child then and was always so easy to take care of with his easygoing and affectionate nature. We were lazily watching Lost in Space, a show made in the 1960s about missing astronauts. There was nothing else on. Zulfi was lying down on his stomach, his head in his hands, and I sat on Papa's side of the bed, reclining and resting my head against the headboard. It was close to 8 when the phone rang. It was a girl from my 9th grade class at the Karachi American School. She was calling to arrange for us to meet over the weekend to discuss a history project. I slumped down, leaning against the bed, sitting on the floor with my knees bent, talking on the phone. We were speaking when I first heard the gunfire. It was a single shot, and it sounded very close. I moved the phone from my ear and waited to see if Zulfi had heard it. The sound was still ringing in my ears when several seconds later, the echo of the first shot was interrupted by a barrage of bullets. They were coming from right outside the window. I could hear the shooting as if the guns were being fired right over our heads. "I'll call you back," I screamed into the phone and leapt across the bed to pull my brother into my chest. He was close to the window, and though I had no idea what was happening, I knew that was the one dangerous position for us to be in the event of gunfire. I carried him, skinny 6-year-old Zulfi, into the dressing room, a small windowless corridor. I slammed the door shut and went to the bathroom door. I closed that too. I sat down with my back against the wall. Zulfi, small and gentle, his shiny black hair was parted neatly across his head, sat next to me. His bird-like features betrayed his sudden fear and confusion. While the shooting lasted 5 minutes at the very least, with no pause in the crack of the bullets, Zulfi huddled against me. I hugged him and pushed his face into my arms as if I could protect him from the sound. "Where's Mummy?" I didn't know. I hoped she was still in the kitchen. It faced the other side of the house, and the gunfire would not have been as close to her as it was to us. We waited. Finally, it stopped. As I stood up to open the door, our mother burst into the bedroom screaming. She pulled me and Zulfi off the floor and took us into the drawing room, yet another windowless room in 70 Clifton. We sat in the drawing room for close to half an hour waiting. The shooting had stopped, and we asked the chowkidar, the gatekeeper, to check outside and tell us what had happened. The area was thronged with police, he said, and they wouldn't let him out of the house. "Stay inside till it's safe," the police told him. I paced up and down the room. There were no mobile phones in Pakistan then. They had been banned by the then democratic government, who managed to keep a few for themselves before closing down the market for the rest of the country. We had no way of reaching Papa and no choice but to wait for him patiently. It was past 8 in the evening and he should have been back home, but we tried not to worry. I grew more agitated with every minute. Not for one instant, though, did I imagine that my father had been hurt. Maybe he had been arrested, and the firing was the police signaling their victory. I worried out loud. There had been a lot of gunfire, more than the typical burst of bullets one heard in Karachi in those days. "Don't worry, Fati," said Zulfi as he swung playfully behind our father's green armchair. "It's only fireworks." It must have been close to 9, 45 minutes later, when I'd had enough. I couldn't wait any longer, and I decided to call my aunt, the Prime Minister. By that point, I was convinced that Benazir, my aunt, had had my father arrested, and I wasn't going to sit by and wait while he was taken to jail. I picked up the red intercom phone and asked whoever answered to connect me to the Prime Minister's office. Don't take no for an answer. I have to speak to Wadi. The phone rang minutes later, sooner than I thought it would. It was usually a considerable hassle getting through to the Prime Minister, even or especially if she was your Wadi Bua, or father's elder sister in Sindhi. I was put on the line with the Prime Minister's aide-de-camp, and I sat down in the armchair to take the call. Is everything all right? The ADC sounded shaky, scared even. Yes, everything's fine, I answered. Can I speak to my aunt, please? I was curt, but he kept talking. Is your family okay? Is everyone fine? Is everyone all right? Yes, I responded. Everyone's fine. Please put me through. The music on the other end of the line, as I was put on hold, was soon interrupted by a click and then a silence. Hello, Wadi, I said, calling my aunt the name that only I used for her. No, she can't come to the phone right now, came the reply. It was Zardari. It was no secret that none of us in the family liked Asif Zardari, my aunt's oleaginous husband. On the few social occasions where I saw him, we shared nothing other than a cursory hello. I need to speak to my aunt, I said tersely, not wanting to talk to him. You can't, he replied, equally brusque. It's very important, and I need to speak to her now. Well, she can't come to the phone. It's very important, and I don't want to talk to you. I need to talk to her, I insisted, my voice quickening. I had wasted enough time on this phone call already. She can't speak, Zardari replied. What? No, I have to speak to her. Please put her on the phone, I continued, growing confused at what seemed like a theatrical attempt to keep me from talking to the one person who was in charge. Oh, don't you know? Zardari responded. Your father's been shot.
Thank you. I am without a fixed microphone, so I will improvise.
Mine has a magnet. I don't know if that helps.
Right. Well, in any event. It's my pleasure to do this, and I come with admiration for a lot of the choices you've made in your still young professional life to approach this book as a journalist would, and other journalism that you've done. And I suspect, without being able to see very well, that there are some people out in the audience who know everything about you or believe they do, and some others who came because of your family name and probably don't know exactly where to place you in the family tree and haven't yet made the important decision to purchase the book, which has a useful family tree in it. But why don't you just start a little bit by talking about your grandfather, his marriage, and the 4 children of whom one was your father.
Well, like all good feudal families, my grandfather's family tried to arrange his marriage considerably early in his life. And he was a teenager when he was told that he would be marrying a woman 10 years older than him. He didn't like the sound of that, so he was told if he did go through with the marriage, he would be given a cricket bat. And he made the choice then to proceed. He was 13, so you can forgive him for that choice. But he was allowed other freedoms and other luxuries. He was allowed to travel abroad, and he went to Berkeley to study political science as an 18-year-old, and from there to Oxford and Lincoln's Inn. And it was when he returned to Pakistan that he began to work as a lawyer, that he began to make his name, in Karachi circles at least. And he remarried, my grandmother, Nusrat. It was a love marriage, and their parents opposed, so they eloped. And
her family has Iranian origins.
Yes, Nusrat's family was Iranian, and they had lived in Bombay and had come over during partition. And she was from a Shia family, and Zulfikar's family didn't quite like the sound of that. So they eloped and married, and their first child was born soon after, Benazir. And a year after that, Murtaza, and another daughter and son followed. And it's quite soon after that he begins his career in politics.